Hey guys, it is Saga from TecworkZ, and here is my take on the POCO X2 after using it for 3 months. If you have been following my channel, you might know that I don't jump on to making full reviews of any smartphone right away. I like to use it for at least a few months, and that gives me plenty of time to know all the ins and outs of it. Plus, it also gives the smartphone some time to mature. By that time, some of the early bugs are ironed out with software updates, and it also gives us a fairly good idea of how the hardware is going to hold up over time. Before getting started, let us get a few things straight. This is not the successor of the POCO F1. It did come out almost 18 months after the POCO F1, but it doesn't come with flagship specs. If we are being honest, it is not even a POCO phone to begin with. It is in fact a rebranded Redmi K30. But being rebranded doesn't take away what it actually offers. So what does the POCO X2 offer? A 6.67-inch display with 120Hz refresh rate, Snapdragon 730G processor, 64MP Sony IMX686 sensor as its primary camera, a 4500mAh battery, and a glass sandwich design at a starting price of 16,999 rupees. This is the new price after the recent GST hikes by the Indian government. I got my phone on the launch day at 15,999 rupees, but even at this new price of 16,999, POCO X2 offers you a lot of value for your money. Well, now that you know that I like this phone, let us dive in a bit deeper into how my experience has been with it after using it for 3 months. And along the way, I will also cover some things that I don't like about it. But before we get to all of that, if you are new to this channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. That way, you won't miss out on any of the amazing videos coming up on this channel. Let us start with the design and build quality. To begin with, it is a huge smartphone with a 6.67-inch display, and it has Gorilla Glass 5 at the front and back. So design-wise, it is already a huge leap over the plastic back of the POCO F1. I was never too fond of the plastic back on the POCO F1, so thumbs up to POCO for putting a glass back on the X2. It makes it feel so much more premium for its price. I have said that it is a huge phone, but how huge exactly? Here is a size comparison with the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is the biggest of all iPhones Apple launched last year. This should give you some idea of the scale. While this size means we do get a large display and more room inside the device for a bigger battery, but I still think phones with 6 or 6.2-inch displays are the right size for most people's hands. It does get a slight curve to the back, which makes it a bit easier to hold, but for my average size hands, it is definitely a two-handed smartphone. Now for the frame, where you actually hold the phone looks like anodized aluminium, but it is in fact made of polycarbonate or plastic. I have seen some big YouTubers say that the frame is made of metal, but they have got it wrong and it is plastic. Even on my unboxing video, a few guys said that it was aluminium and I was wrong at calling it plastic. But since then, many durability test videos have gone up on YouTube which show that it is in fact plastic. The chassis inside the phone is aluminium, but the frame is definitely plastic. We get Gorilla Glass 5 protection at the front and back, and in my experience, it has been surprisingly resilient against scratches. I have been using this phone without any screen protector for the past 3 months, and it has not gathered any scratches yet. On some other phones with Gorilla Glass 5, I have seen a few micro scratches show up with time, but not on this POCO X2. At the back, camera module is surrounded by a circular optical illusion, which looks like a dome or a carved sphere from certain angles. It is a nice design choice to separate the POCO X2 from all other glass back phones. These cameras stick out quite a bit, and the phone does rattle if you place it on the table, but only if you tap on the top right or the left corner. But when a phone is placed on a table, you are more likely to tap on the bottom part, and while doing so, it doesn't rattle. If you want it to stay flat, just put the case on it that comes in the box. It protects the camera hump and has a lip at the front to keep the display raised and protected. This case also helps the back glass from gathering fingerprints, so most of the time I have used my phone with this case on. At 208 grams, it is not exactly on the lighter side, but the weight is distributed very well throughout the device, so it doesn't feel top or bottom heavy. It sports a P2N nano coating, which means it is splash resistant and can withstand some light drizzle. But don't use it in heavy rain or don't take it for a swim, as it is not completely waterproof. and any kind of water damage is not covered under warranty. The most marketed feature of this POCO X2 has to be the Reality Flow 120Hz high refresh rate display. It is an IPS LCD panel and it supports HDR10 playback. Although it is an LCD panel and not an OLED one, it does manage to reproduce very accurate colors and wide viewing angles. While it is not the brightest LCD panel, it gets bright enough to be easily viewable in outdoor lighting conditions. The highlighting feature here is the higher 120Hz refresh rate. This makes the phone feel so much smoother and faster. Now, I have showed it to a few of my friends and they were mixed reactions. Some of them noticed a difference right away, and the others didn't even feel that there is anything different even when I switched from 60 to 120Hz in front of them. I for one am able to tell the difference between 60 and 120Hz, and I am glad that companies are pushing this tech out to sub 20,000 rupees smartphones. Now if you don't like the 120Hz refresh rate mode, or if you want to prolong the battery life, you can always switch back to 60Hz. Since it's a huge display, it is great for playing games and consuming media. There are dual punch hole style cutouts because there are two front-facing cameras on this phone. Through software, POCO makes it look like it is a single pill-shaped cutout like on the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. But these are in fact two separate cutouts and there is screen between the two which is colored black via software. While this might lead to many people in believing that it is a longer cutout, the effect would have been more believable if it were an AMOLED display. Now this notch is definitely smaller than what we had on the POCO F1. And after a day or two, I did not find it to be intrusive at all. It is definitely noticeable, because we are used to looking at the top right corner to check the battery percentage, but as I said, you get used to it and it is not too intrusive. Now since it's an LCD panel, we don't get an in-display fingerprint sensor. Frankly, I am glad for this, because the in-display fingerprint sensors on budget smartphones are not that good to begin with. So the fingerprint sensor on the POCO X2 is placed on the right side under the volume up and down buttons, and it also doubles as a power button. From within the settings menu, you can either set it to read the fingerprint when you press the button, or you can even make it to read your fingerprint just as you tap on it, which I found to be a bit faster. This fingerprint sensor is very fast and accurate. Although it is more accurate than the in-display fingerprint sensor and a bit easier to reach than the rear one, I still think it is a bit higher for my hands to comfortably reach it. Since it is a tall phone, I would have liked it to be placed a centimeter or so lower. Anyways, I still like this placement. We already saw that the volume up and down buttons are above this fingerprint sensor / power button. At the top, there is a noise cancelling microphone and an IR blaster, which lets you use this phone as a remote controller for your home appliances. On the left side, there is a SIM tray. It is a hybrid SIM tray, which means you can either use two nano SIM cards or a nano SIM card and a micro SD card at a time. At the bottom, we have the speaker grill on the left, a microphone, a USB Type-C port for charging and data transfer, and everyone's beloved 3.5mm headphone jack on the right. I am more of a wireless audio person, but if you like to listen to your music via wired earphones, output via the audio jack is of very high quality. The speaker on the phone can also get pretty loud, but just like with most other budget smartphones, it lacks the depth at high volumes and might sound a bit tinny. Coming to the cameras, primary one gets a 64MP Sony IMX686 sensor with f1.8 aperture and 26mm lens. Then there is a 8MP sensor with a 13mm ultra-wide angle lens and f2.2 aperture, followed by a 2MP sensor with f2.4 aperture and a macro lens, and finally there is another 2MP depth sensor with f2.4 aperture. To put it in simple terms, cameras on this POCO X2 are some of the best on any smartphone in under 20,000 rupees. Look at these image samples. In most lighting conditions, you will be really happy with the images that come out of this phone. If you like to take portrait shots, try switching to the movie mode and you will be blown away by the results. Now the macro camera on these phones is getting quite a bit of heat since last couple of weeks. Sure, it is just a 2MP sensor, but when you think about it, it needs to capture details in a very tiny part of the scene, and as far as the focus is set properly, it doesn't really matter how many more details are in the remaining part of the image, because most of the times those parts are going to be out of focus anyways. I definitely agree that having high resolution would be better, but at the same time, I don't think this kind of lens needs to have a multiple digit megapixel count. You might not agree with me, and that is totally fine, because if you know what you are doing with it, even a 2MP macro camera can take amazing looking images. Although it gets two front facing cameras and one of them has a 20MP sensor, selfies from the POCO X2 are not the best. There are some other smartphones at a lower price point which do a better job than this, but it makes up for it by taking amazing videos. POCO X2 can take electronically stabilized 4K 30fps videos, and these videos look really good. For a much more detailed look at its cameras and for a lot more image and video samples, I would suggest you guys to check out my dedicated camera review of the POCO X2. I will leave a card to it on the top right corner of the screen and also link it in the description section. A part of why the POCO X2 is good at taking images is the image signal processing capability of the Snapdragon 730G processor. It is paired with Adreno 618 GPU for smoother graphics, and you can choose from either 6 or 8 GB of RAM coupled with either 64, 128 or 256 GB of built-in storage. With all these specs, overall performance of this phone is very smooth. App opening and switching between them is a breeze, and since the G in the 730G processor stands for gaming, the gaming performance of this phone is also really good. The games that support high refresh rate of 120Hz on a smartphone are just a treat to play on this phone. POCO X2 not only shows better benchmark scores than the competing smartphones in its price range, but the overall daily performance also shows that it is a very capable smartphone in real life. If you happen to be pushing the phone for a long time, there are a few frame drops in the 120Hz mode, but that doesn't happen too often. Frame drops were a major issue when the phone was new, but with software updates, POCO has been fixing this issue and now it is completely smooth. The phone might get a bit warm if I use the camera for a long time or after playing a few games, but I won't say it ever got so hot that I would be worried or anything like that. A little bit of heat is expected, especially in the summer season like we are in right now. As long as we are on the topic of issues, many people had a few of them with the battery on this phone. There were complaints that even with a 4500 mAh battery, this phone won't last long enough on a single charge, and that they even faced ideal battery drain. While I got 5.5 to 6 hours of screen on time with 120Hz mode on all the time, I think I could have made the battery last longer by switching to the 60Hz mode. I think battery optimization should have been a bit better because a battery this large should at least last for a day and a half. But then again, I was comparing its battery with the Note 9 Pro, which had a much larger battery. Up until last month, I was facing the ideal battery drain issue, where my phone was losing 13 to 15% of battery overnight. The issue has since been fixed with a software update, and overnight, now it loses just 2 to 3% of the battery. When it is time to charge it up, we do get a 27W charger in the box, which is pretty quick. Although there is glass back, there is no wireless charging, but for this price, we don't even expect the phones to pack in this feature. POCO X2 packs in all the necessary sensors like the ambient light and proximity sensor, gyroscope, accelerometer, IR sensor, GPS, Bluetooth 5.0, Wi-Fi 5.0, dual VoLTE, and it also gets FM radio, which is very important for some people. Coming to the software side of things, even if this is technically a Xiaomi smartphone, X2 runs a version of MIUI 11 that is specially tweaked for POCO smartphones, and it is built on top of Android 10. Now since it is still technically a version of MIUI 11, there are a lot of aesthetic similarities, but the POCO launcher has a few new features of its own. Well, first of all, there are no spam system-wide ads on the UI of this POCO X2. That being said, you will still see these ads if you open the Mi browser or Mi Videos app. So the best thing to do is download Google apps like Chrome as soon as you get this phone and never use the pre-installed Mi apps. Unlike on other Redmi phones, POCO Launcher gives you an app drawer, where apps are classified according to their categories, or you can even group them by colors if you think that makes it easier for you to find them. Now this is not unique to the POCO X2, as the POCO Launcher is available on the Google Play Store and you can install it on any Android smartphone. There are a few good features of this UI, but I'm still not a big fan of MIUI in any form, so given a chance, I will definitely install a different launcher on this phone and make it look more like Google Pixel. While the overall software experience was not all that smooth when this phone first came out, there have been a few software updates since and everything seems pretty smooth now. So my overall experience has been pretty smooth with this POCO X2. I did not encounter any performance issues or any excessive heating issues, so it has been smooth sailing for me so far. Yes, about the few frame drops that I mentioned before. As rarely as they occur, because the normal experience is so smooth, those drops do stand out like a sour candy to my eyes. And if POCO or Xiaomi could just stop with these shady ads and a ton of notifications altogether, the overall experience would be so much better. The best thing you can do is stop using Mi apps altogether and turn off notifications for all the built-in apps. If you are ready to use a huge phone and if you want the best smartphone under 20,000 rupees right now, I think you are going to love the POCO X2. Big display with 120Hz refresh rate is not only amazing for playing games, but it offers overall amazing experience with good brightness levels and a good amount of contrast and accurate colors. The Snapdragon 730G processor ensures a smooth performance overall, and the cameras are simply the best at this price range. POCO has also showed that if there are any issues on the software side, they have been fast enough to push out updates to fix it. All of this makes the POCO X2 a perfect smartphone for anyone who is willing to spend 17,000 rupees. That is it for this video, guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and also subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.